Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to this Ask the Expert session, Power Platform and the FSI Unified Customer Profile app. I will be going over some quick housekeeping items and then we will get started. Please use the chat to ask your questions. You can post anonymously or use your name. You can also vote for your favorite questions. Our experts will answer questions verbally or over chat as determined by the moderator, and we'll also provide you some resources so that you can continue learning after the session. Please do not record the session on your side. We will record it and provide it on demand through your digital backpack. Also, please help our moderators by not spamming the chat. Lastly, we ask you adhere to the Microsoft Code of Conduct. It's posted here and we'll show it in the chat momentarily. And with that, let's turn it over to our experts. Ronnie, I'll hand it off to you.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Ronnie Karasik. I'm the Director of PM for the FSI Cloud. With me today is Eran Shamir, who is the Engineering Manager for the FSI Cloud, and Matthew Balamos, who is the PM Manager in the Loan Manager as part of the Teams team. So, hi, everyone. We are ready and happy to answer any question you might have. So let me start by asking Matthew a question. Sure. What services in Microsoft 365 does the Loan Manager take advantage of?
Yeah, so if you've watched the keynote, at the tail end, you got to see them using the Loan Manager application. They flipped through a bunch of different tabs and showed tasks and meetings. There was even an approvals card. And what's really exciting about some of the new model-driven apps that we're building for teams is that we really want to leverage a lot of the power of M365. So all the features that you saw there are actually going to be making graph calls behind the scenes to sync with all those powerful services and products you know today. So those meetings will be syncing with the Bookings app and Outlook. Tasks, we're going to be starting with Planner, but we have aspirations to integrate with To-Do and projects as well. And then lastly, approvals. If you're familiar with Power Automate and those approvals flows, we'll be integrating with that infrastructure as well so that you can build your own custom approvals for any sort of loan application. Thanks for that question.
Awesome. So now I think a question for you, Eran. So in the Build keynote, we saw that there are AI models that are part of the Unified Customer Profile. Is it possible to add more AI models to enrich that customer card in the 360 view?
Oh, thanks for this question, Ronnie. And the answer is definitely. What we are doing behind the scenes is using the Customer Insight, or as we call it here, CI. And Customer Insight allow both out-of-the-box Microsoft-owned models and customer-owned models. Using the Dataverse connectors we have today, these models results are flowing back to the Dataverse and Power Platform. And built on top of this is the UCP, which would take these data sets and expose them. So the answer is definitely yes.
Awesome. So I'm going to try another question for you, Matthew. So can you bring other model-driven apps into Teams outside of the Loan Manager that was showed in the keynote?
That's a great question. So not quite, but it's coming. So if you saw the keynote, you saw the Loan Manager application directly inside of Teams. If you want to do that yourself and pin it as a personal app inside of Teams, that same functionality will be coming later this calendar year for the rest of Power Apps and Power Platform. Now, if you want to get a head start and you still want to use your model-driven app inside of Teams, the Dynamics team does have their own application. Just search for it in the Teams App Store. It's called Dynamics 365. and that also will allow you to start pinning and using some of your model-driven apps inside of the Teams interface. And I'm really excited about this functionality because what it means is you don't have to bounce between your collaboration portal, so Teams, and where you get your work done, Dynamics. You don't have to jump between these two different windows. Instead, all you have to do is go to one single pane of glass, Teams, and you have access to all the information that you need in order to complete your workday. So exciting stuff is coming down the road. And we're excited to see what people do with it.
Yeah, sounds like we are mixing between collaboration and business process management. So kind of like bringing the best of both worlds.
Exactly.
Awesome. So let me see another question for Eran. Is it possible to add third-party data to this unified 360 view?
So yes, there are two ways you can do this, and I'm going to touch base primarily on the customer insight. So customer insight is an open platform which allows multitude of data sources, be that Dataverse obviously, but other sources which we have yet to think about is into CI, where you can bundle this into the customer insights profile, and this surfaces back into UCP, into CI. It triggers measures, segments. So you have the chance to use the whole plethora data sources, combine them in CI, and get the results in UCP.
Great. So there's another question. I think I'm going to take it and answer it as well, guys. So this one is, what does licensing for cloud for financial services look like? This is a great question. We are still early days in the cloud for financial services. We're only in preview, and the GA is still is planned for later this year. So we still don't have a final licensing plan for the cloud for financial services, but stay tuned. We're hoping to release that soon. Okay, let's try another one for you, Matthew. Hope you're ready. Are you able to use the components built within the loan manager for other workflow or processes?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, so if you want to use some of the M365 capabilities that I talked about, like integrating with Outlook meetings, tasks, and etc. within other model-driven apps, that is something that is on our radar. We're trying to take the best of kind of the loan manager application so that other folks can integrate with M365. So that's definitely on our aspirations. Will likely come after we launch Loan Manager. But in the meantime, if you want to take the Loan Manager application once it goes live, more generally available later this year, you can start poking around some of those components and start getting excited for using some of these deeper integrations with M365. I'm personally excited because this type of integration just hasn't existed yet. Really, it's been Graph on one side and Dataverse on the other, and they're kind of living in two silos. And we really think we're going to really supercharge what developers can do with the platform when it's much easier to use these two platforms together in a single solution.
Awesome. So keeping things in balance. Next question will be for Eran. What technology stack do you use for the unified customer profile?
Great question. So for the unified client profile, we try to build a very cohesive, coherent, and actually stunning UX. So the approach we took and using the technologies which Power Platform lays ahead of us and make available for us, where we started with building the single components using pure React. Okay, this allows you to utilize the goodness of this framework and be very, maintain high fidelity with what we wanted. Then we wrapped some of them or all of them together with PCF, which is the ability to bring the power of creativity, I would say, back to Power Platform. And then we embedded these PCF within the model-driven app. All in all, what you get is a very high fidelity, high value, coherent view of the customer, which is also beautiful. And I just love how PCF and model-driven app unlock this scenario.
I would +1 that. A lot of the controls that we're building for the loan manager are also using the PCF, the Power Apps Control Framework, to light up a lot of those scenarios. And what I love about it is it really means that as a pro dev, you don't have to like forget and stop using all the great skills and technology that you've learned over your entire career. You can still build things in JavaScript and things like React that are super highly tailored, extremely powerful, and bring them into the Power Platform so that someone that doesn't have those skills can just reuse them inside of their low-code applications inside of Power Apps.
So here's another one. Can we apply the Fusion developer approach that's been highlighted during the build?
That's like very on point with what we were just talking about, right? Yes, most definitely. And like for me, it's hard to imagine kind of like this future Fusion development style where you have pro devs and citizen devs and business users working together to build an application without something like Power Platform. With Power Platform, it marries things like PCF, where you can build these high code, super custom things so that you can have a low code citizen developer use them. There's things like our connector framework. So as a pro dev, you can build a custom connector that connects to your own systems of record, your own data. You can create pipelines to bring that data into Dataverse. And then once it's there, your citizen developers aren't going to have to learn SQL or crazy APIs or what have you. Instead, they're using point and click UX to interact with this information and build custom applications on top of it. So like the future is now, right? And if you want to go ahead and start playing around with this Fusion development, definitely check out Power Apps, start using it, play around with it. It really is exciting.
I agree.
Do you have anything else to add?
I think in financial services specifically, when we're trying to really tailor what we're building to fit your specific industry, you guys are the experts. So this is where this marriage is particularly great, because we can build some of our really innovative high-tech stuff. And then in areas where it requires specific understanding of financial services and sort of like your unique skills and capabilities, you can complement what we build, and then together it's even better. So I think it's a great opportunity. So I have one more question for you, Eran. Are you able to customize the unified customer profile to add additional components or to pull components into other apps?
So yes, and this is something we'll put effort into. So first of all, if you think about the new features we saw like in the keynotes, like the Canvas form, or if you think about model-driven app the way it is, it always allowed you to put your own components within the Canvas or the hosting application. So the way we structure this, it allow you to rip and replace parts of what we do, augment the model-driven app, put it in its own Canvas app. We are also working with customers to understand for the PCFs where additional customization needs to come, and we'll add this gradually. And very similar to what Matthew said, you can go from a scale. You get a scale of customizability using Power Platform, and these Fusion technologies allow you to express and get what you want, and not only what a dev could have achieved in what is traditional programming environment.
So while we wait for more questions, I think one thing might be good to share with all of you is that we are coming from two teams, but we are working without seams between us. So both the loan manager and the unified customer profile, and actually other capabilities that are part of the FSI Cloud, are all sitting on top of a shared data model, which is a specific data model dedicated for retail banking. It has dimensions of retail banking like groups and life events and things that really matter for a banker managing close relationships with customers, as well as a whole area of loan application that includes all of the details of the application that you need to collect. And in fact, as part of the FSI Cloud, we're working even better together. We are trying to capture the loan application from the very beginning where someone applies, all the way through validating the application process and then handing it over to that loan manager app so that everyone at the bank can collaborate, process, and expedite the underwriting of the loan until it is signed. So it's a true One Microsoft kind of initiative.
And it looks like in the chat, if y'all aren't already monitoring it, Sharon, our moderator, has actually shared a ton of additional information, links to some of our docs. In particular, I would definitely highly check out the first link she shared, the aka.ms Fusion Dev book. It's a great doc that kind of highlights some of the stuff that Eran and I was sharing about Fusion development on top of Power Platform.
So we got another question. Guys ready? In this new open world, how do you manage customer consent to use their private information by citizen, integrator, developer? Do you offer service to ask customer acknowledgement and then enforce it in the result?
So I think there's two aspects of this. There's like internal, like within just using these applications to collaborate. You're of course using M365 services within the loan manager, and so consent in that space we'll be asking for the admin to basically give consent for the entire company to use the application. But then there's like the external customers. Hey, I'm applying for a loan, I'm using this, what have you. For those aspects, we'll be leaning on our partners to collect that consent within that particular web portal that's built. And then after you've collected that consent, you can start making calls to Dataverse to take that loan information, bring it into our platform so that the back office employees can start reasoning and start working on top of that data.
Okay, we got another one. We currently have an on-prem core with private API, but are moving to cloud-based core. How will Cloud for Financial Services handle the large volumes of real-time data required for retail banking? Will there be an out-of-the-box integration to any cloud-based cores? Any examples if so?
So this is something we are definitely thinking about, how to alleviate and remove some of the friction point around data integration. To be frank, we are still in the early stages of how to define this solution, but knowing Power Platform, knowing what can happen and what can be done, expect good things coming in the future.
So this next question, I think it's for me, but you guys wave if you disagree. So will FSI Cloud integrate with Microsoft App Source to allow for an easy button type to deployment? So the answer to that is yes and no. So yes, for partners that are building on top of the FSI Cloud, that would be where you would go and be able to deploy whatever they build on top of our platform. But for the FSI Cloud solutions, there is a dedicated solution center that has all of the capabilities that are part of the FSI Cloud, including Unified Customer Profile and the Loan Manager, and you'd be able to go there and deploy from there in the same easy button approach. The next question, what sort of challenges does the Fusion development approach present and how do you overcome them?
I think for me, the biggest challenge is pro devs are used to doing things a certain way. And when you integrate with Power Platform, the first assumption is, oh, I can't do it that way anymore. Like source control is a good example. On the face of it, it's like, oh, I've lost my source control. Everything's horrible again. How will I know who and what did things and how can I track changes? But the exciting thing is the platform cares so deeply about the pro devs and making sure that their experience is analogous to what they're already used to, that we've been providing a ton of tools out of the box to kind of smooth out some of those learning curves of the Power Platform. So in terms of like source control in particular, we have a bunch of out of the box actions for both Azure DevOps and GitHub that allow you to take the building blocks and things even your citizen devs are doing inside of Dataverse, so that you can sync it back into source control, so that you always know who's making changes, and if something really bad happens, you can always do what source control is great at, which is reverting. So definitely take a look at some of our pro dev docs for Power Platform. I'm sure you'll be surprised. A lot has changed in the last few years, so that we can make sure that we satisfy our pro dev community. Is there anything else that y'all would like to share?
So it looks like though Sharon is continuously plugging in some resources for you. So if our answers are too short or not or missing anything, you can definitely find the resources you need in those many links.
I think the other thing to keep in mind as you start Fusion development is I described half the story, right? Where it's like pro devs learning to work with citizen devs, but then there's citizen devs picking up a platform of building apps for the very first time. And for that, citizen devs have been kind of the bread and butter of Power Platform since its inception. So we have a lot of great materials on our oh dear, Center of Excellence, COE. So if you search for that, maybe Sharon will be able to drop in a link to our Center of Excellence toolkit and documentation. But that's all about, as a company, if you want to kind of build out this citizen developer group, how do you go about doing that? Like how do you culturally make those changes? What are the governance things that you need to apply to make sure that citizen developers aren't doing anything risky or dangerous with customer data? So definitely check out those resources as well. And I think if you combine both the COE to help the citizen devs, and as a pro dev, kind of check out some of our Fusion docs and some of our pro dev docs, y'all can meet in the middle and really make magic happen.
Absolutely. And while we wait for another question, I'll let you guys know that both the loan manager, the unified customer profile, and even the retail banking data model, they're all available for preview now. So you can go ahead and give them a try if you're interested. Okay, we got another question. How the citizen developer experience tie into the pro developer source control and workflow experience from a licensing experience? For example, our business users typically aren't licensed for ADO or GitHub. How do they see source code, submit pull requests, etc.?
So I can probably take that one. So the way the integrations work today is you actually create a service account within Dataverse, and it's the one that does all of the synchronization. And so what that means for y'all is you don't necessarily have to license every single citizen developer. You're really just licensing the pro devs that need to use something like ADO or GitHub, and the service account that's going to ferry things across. So hopefully that addresses some of those licensing concerns. I'd also like to reiterate, like, in Power Platform, our goal is never to charge the development experience. And if we ever do, and if you ever notice that we're doing that, you should whack us on top of the head. So I know there was just some recent announcements on some of the improvements to licensing for our pro dev experience, so that you don't have any friction of building your first solution, so that you can see what the platform's all about, you can try it out, you can see how it's amazing before you start rolling it out to all of your internal employees and customers.
So there's another, I don't know if it's a question or a bit of a complaint. It's been difficult to hear what's coming for the FSI Cloud. We're really sorry to hear that. Can you have a public-facing Q&A document as part of continuous updated documentation? So I think what we could do is first post a bunch of links for you where you can find out more about the Cloud for FSI. We also had an Ignite session for it, which you guys are welcome to look up as well. And we'll take the feedback and we'll try to add more documentation and details about it. And we're glad to hear you're excited to hear more about it. And if you want, you can also post a question here. We still have a couple of minutes. There we go. The Ignite session is there. Sharon, you're very good at this. So yeah, whoever posted that question, if there's any top of mind question about FSI Cloud, we will be happy to answer it. Okay, so looks like we are dry out of questions. You guys can always read about it in all the various links and resources that we have provided. We do thank you for taking the time to sit down and ask us questions and listen to our answers. And we look forward to revealing more and more details about the FSI Cloud.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, did we get one more question?
Yeah, we got one more question. Wait. Let me see. Here we go. What sort of governance is available in Power Platform to ensure that citizen devs remain compliant with privacy, accessibility, and other policies?
Ah, great. Yeah, so I highly encourage check out the COE link that Sharon provided, but I can speak to some of the top ones. People are probably most concerned about data. So within Power Platform, we do have a concept of data loss prevention policies that you can set up to prevent data from leaking across environments or between different services that you don't want necessarily talking to each other. So that definitely helps. You can also kind of dictate which controls or which services people necessarily have access to, etc. In terms of privacy, I particularly like the way our connector framework has been set up, because you only really have access to your own data and what you have your creds for. So that in that sense, it's already starting from a place where it's fairly locked down. So a citizen dev isn't necessarily going to be able to siphon off data from a bunch of other users. And then for things like accessibility, we have checkers that will tell you if your app is running into any of our common accessibility patterns or problems that you might run into. And then if you're using things like model-driven apps and you're just saying, hey, I want a form on top of this data, you can rest assured that we'll automatically generate an accessible experience for you out of the box. So that's just one less thing to worry about.
Awesome. So I'm going to read the last question. Can we get some reference architectures for banking, insurance, or capital markets related to the FSI Cloud? Azure does this continuously. So I think you're not going to love my answer, but because we are still early, as we said, for FSI Cloud, we're kind of releasing everything as soon as we can. So I think the answer is absolutely once we get closer to general availability. But until then, it's kind of like a bit of a wave and wait kind of approach as we are working hard to build the best product we can for the general availability. So I think with that, although last time I said this, there were 2 more questions. So quickly, if you want to ask anything, but we're at time. So thanks, Eran and Matthew, for helping to answer all the many questions that came in. It's been a pleasure talking to all of you and looking forward to meeting you again in the near future.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Adios.